This is Kathy Garver, voice of Firestar from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Welcome to a special episode of Power of X-Men.
Kathy, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I'm here talking with you. You are an icon.
Well, thank you. I did an interview last week, a podcast, and they said, well, you're a legend. And I said, no, I'm an icon. No, you're a legend. No, I'm an icon. But either one, I'm really happy with. That's fine with me.
Well, the amount of power you have, and we were talking about this before we hit record, and I know you said it's the power Firestar, and of course we love that, but there's something so special about you. I mean, everything you've done, I've read parts of your memoir, obviously I've seen you on TV, and we're such huge Firestar fans here, but you're so talented. You have such a presence on stage.
Thank you. I have been told that, and I just take it from my own inner light and my inspiration from whatever spiritual being is out there. And I think I just infuse some of that, and I say, okay, let my little light shine. I'm going to let my little light shine. So that's it. And when it has that light, you just have to be free to, light it up. You don't have to be a superpower or a mutant or an X-Men to press your button and make your light come out.
Oh my God. Okay, so Kathy, let's just dive into it because
Okay.
obviously mutants and X-Men, that has been such a large part of your life, I'm assuming at this point. When you got the call to audition for Spider-Man, what were your initial thoughts? Did you even know who Spider-Man was?
Not really. And I got the call from Wally Burr, who I had worked with before. And we worked on My Little Pony and different commercials. He was the casting director. And actually at that time I was living in Northern California, but I was commuting back and forth between LA. And I just gotten married? Maybe not, but yes, I had just gotten married and going back, and I said, well, goodbye, new husband. I'm going to LA. So I went on the interview, and I've been on thousands of interviews because I've been in this business forever, ever since the 10 Commandments, not the silent version, but I've been around for a long time. And so I said, okay, this is another interview. So I went on the interview, and I did my lines. I flew back to Northern California. Then I got a call back. So I flew down again. And that time I think that was the time that there was Frank Welker and then Dan Gilvezan. Frank Welker, of course, was playing Iceman and Ms. Lion and every other voice. And Dan, this was like his first job. This was his first kind of voiceover experience. So I did the interview with that triumvirate, and then I waited, and then my agent called and says, oh, you got it. Now, Dan and I are very, very good friends. And I'm back in LA now, and he and his wife live like 20 minutes from my house. But he said that he got the part, then he didn't get the part, then he got the part. And, so he went back and forth. He wasn't quite sure if he was going to be Spider-Man, but it all worked out. And I think that the voices were good, the personalities really melded well. We all liked each other very much. So that was a good thing.
That comes across, especially when you're watching the show and it's animation. And, I know we've had a lot of voice actors on the podcast before, and they talk about how they had to record separately from other castmates. But you guys, and you tell us the setup that you guys went through with recording, but the chemistry all three of you had on TV was just uncanny. It was so good.
Thank you. And it really does make a big difference. Even on Family Affair, when I did that series, everyone got along very well. The chemistry was, we all liked each other. the little boy, we were born on the same day, some years apart, but there was, just some of those lights that got turned on all at the same time, and those special energies that just commuted between the people. And I believe that was very true with Family Fair. I mean, there were many family kinds of shows, and it was maybe the first with like a bachelor that gets all these kids, and there were many after that. But Family Affair was kind of a promo and a premiere for the different kinds of things that were going on. And here, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends was another first. Stan Lee had always taken his characters that he had developed in the comic books and then say, oh, this would make, a great animated series.
Yeah.
Well, for Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, he devised the animated cartoon first and said, okay, now what kind of characters? Wait, this is going to be about Spider-Man and I think Iceman. Now, what are we going to do? And there was, should we do Firestorm or Firefly or this or that or the other thing? They're saying, well, no, it's got to be more than a fly. And, she's not going to flit around. And then you don't want her just to be a storm. What can she be? Who is this character? Then they said, okay, how about Firestar? Because our stars are made of fire and it's something that lasts for a long time. And so a Firestar is born.
So many questions spinning in my head. And I want to ask, did you ever get to meet Stan Lee? Did you ever have a conversation with Stan Lee?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And he was there for a lot of the times when we were recording. And then he did the intros to Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. There's a wonderful documentary about how Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends came to be. And then was the just explosion of Comic-Cons, and I had the good fortune to see him there at San Diego Comic-Con and different Comic-Cons that I've gone to.
So you're being flown out back to LA. You got the new husband, you got the script for Spider-Man. You're like, bye, I'll see you later. You're flying out to audition. What were you told about Firestar going into the audition process? Because she wasn't a character that existed in the comics. She was created for the show. So she was basically a blank canvas.
Well, I think for an actor, every character you get is like a blank canvas. You don't know who they are.
Yeah.
I don't know who they are unless it's a historic character, and those are few and far between, really. And so it was like I got a script for any character that I would develop.
Mm-hmm.
So I taught voiceover and how to create characters for like 20 years.
Yeah.
But I said, okay, who is this person? How old is this person? Where does this person come from? What's this person's attitude, et cetera, et cetera. And you basically, I think another thing that was good about Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, for all the characters, they're all very relatable.
Yeah.
And in person as well. Dan is just very laid back and very likable kind of person, and Frank the same. And I'm very friendly and kind of a warm person to say hello, just as a regular person. So with those attitudes, I think it gave it a longevity because people could relate to them, and then they had that extra thing that people like. Firestar, all of a sudden she can fly. I mean, that's my favorite episode, is a Firestar is born.
Yes, 100%.
I mean, gee, why is that your favorite? Because it's all about me.
I mean, she is the breakout star of the series. Come on, you surely must know that she is a breakout star.
Well, interesting. She's still around, and since Disney bought Marvel, and they're showing them on Disney Plus every Saturday, they're making all these new action figures. Like this came out, I think, like 2 years ago.
Look who I have here too.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's from Hasbro. Yes.
And do you have this one?
I do. Yeah. So that one's just the same one, but with another head on it.
Oh, yes. I don't know why they decapitated me. Was there a reason for cutting off my head? I'm still trying to figure that out.
I like
your head while everybody else is losing theirs. You're in good shape.
I love the second head there because that's your head, and then the other one's a little bit more of a comic accurate head, and we display it has to be this one. This is the only one that's you. Like we have to.
Ah, yeah, good.
Yeah.
And Miss Lion,
And
I
Miss Lion.
Lion. And then they brought out so what I'm saying is there's a resurgence
Yeah.
of Firestar, and that's interesting to say she was a breakout character. And I was reading this thing about where this Emma Frost was, responsible for a lot of things that happened to dear sweet Firestar, and that was, she was kind of pushed away in the corner. Well, she's coming back. I think she should even come back even, stronger. And I think that the powers that be are seeing the strength of Firestar and her fire. So then they brought out this one.
Oh, that is my favorite. That's a Toys R Us exclusive.
Yes, and this was a while ago.
Oh
So
yeah.
this was a while ago. So what they did this last year was bring out a better one and a better one.
I
Have you seen
know.
that?
I have. Oh my gosh. So we have that box set back in our New York apartment. I love it so much. It is my favorite box set. There's something about the packaging, having all three characters figures together that's incredible.
Yeah, I like the
Amazing.
packaging. And then
Let's see.
here, let's see. Unfortunately, this was in the garage, and my
Oh,
almost drove over her. But this is a big statue of
yes.
Star.
Oh my, I actually have never seen that one.
This just came out. It just came out last year. So that's my point by
Yeah.
doing show and tell
Mhm,
is that they have all these characters.
mhm.
But what was cool? I was in the mall a couple of days ago, and I was just walking by the store, and I saw, what is this store? And it was called Torpedo, I believe. And I said, that looks interesting because it had cartoon characters and like figures. And so there was one, a Firestar, and I had never seen this.
Let me see that one.
And this was
Oh my, yeah, the
there
Firestar
were only,
bus.
I think, 2,000 of these made,
Yeah.
and I had never ever seen it. So
Oh
anyway,
my, it's a Marvel
and they
Universe bust. I've wanted that. That's been on my wish list for decades. Oh my gosh.
I had never seen this, and I thought, well, how cool is that? So we made a deal, and I got this, as well as I'm going to make an appearance at their store. So and sign some of my pictures and sign some of the figures.
Okay, but Kathy, you walk into the store and you're like, "Hi, you see that character right there? That's me." What is the reaction
Oh my
of the
God.
store clerk? Like, what do they even say?
He was so cute, Mac. Well, he's, he's like the big ruffian, and he couldn't believe it because I had burst. I was just walked in nonchalantly, and I said, "Do you have any Firestar like characters?" And he says, I don't know." He says, "I don't think so." And I said, "Oh, well, you have a really lot of nice things in here." He says, "Actually, I was the voice of Firestar." What? You were? Oh my God. It was just like he was on heaven, really. He was so sweet and such a nice guy. And he said, "Oh, I do have this one thing." And so then he found that this bust, and
Yeah.
he says, "Maybe I could give you a deal on it." I said, "Well, okay, that sounds good to me." So anyway, we talked and had a great conversation. And then he says, "Well, I'm going to talk to the owner." The owner is some kind of a rock musician, and this is his secondary thing that he likes to do, has this store. And
Okay.
there's more and more of them. There's maybe 4 or 5 of these stores called Torpedo. But anyway, so yeah, that's my collection of my Firestar goodies.
That is a really great collection. There was also back in the 90s a 5-inch figure of her released as well, which is I have it somewhere in storage at my parents' place. But
I have it downstairs, but I'd have to go downstairs. It's a little one.
yeah,
And
yeah,
there's
it's
also a Lego.
oh
Have you seen
yes, there is a
the
Lego.
Lego ever?
Yes.
Because he was telling me about this whole Megatropolis, and then she's one of the little characters in the thing. That's on his best list to get,
Okay.
on his wish list.
So we have to ask now, because we do know the X-Men cartoon is coming back in X-Men 97. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends is on Disney Plus. There's still that Firestar burning. Has there ever been a conversation or murmurs about a revival for Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends?
There had been, no, not that but there had been talk of Firestar having her own show. And I talked to them a lot about that. And I said, I think that you should have a spinoff and you should have Firestar, have her own television animated show. So, and that was kind of right after it was going off. It should have run for many more seasons, but
absolutely.
These were all specially made. The stories were just fabulous. And I think that's another reason that they have endured so long and that they keep going on and those particular characters keep going on. As I say, Firestar was kind of in the past because Emma killed her horse and, I didn't know that. But I was, distrustful of these other mutants. I mean, how dare they do that? So, but now that we're more mature and, we're women that have our own attitudes and passions and can fight, I think that there is space in the universe for Firestar, and especially as a foe of Emma.
Yes, Emma Frost, justice for Butterrum. We need justice for Butterrum because of what Miss Emma Frost did. Although Emma has sort of become more of a morally gray character in the comics, but Firestar recently is having, I don't know if you're up to date with her on the current comic books, but she is now an informant. She's playing like a double agent on the bad guys side called Orcus because she's trying to save the X-Men from extinction, and Firestar was placed there by Jean Grey. She is having such a massive storyline in the comics right now, and everyone is rooting for her just to get the mission done.
I love that. Well, and I was so surprised the last Comic-Con I went to, I think that was in Northeast Comic-Con, and there's just people coming up all the time, especially with this, and it was a toy show as well. Yeah. So when there's a toy show as well as a Comic-Con, they can get these, and so they people, just lines for this, which was interesting. So she's really, I think, hot in the manner of speaking at this time.
Can I pull on the thread of the series kind of ended? There was talk of doing a Firestar spinoff. Was it just in a talk format? Did it ever, snowball into something a little bit more? Was there a reason why it never got made?
I think that it was primarily in the talk phase. I don't think there was a script for it, and they were going on to other things. So it didn't get made. Now, of course, there's talk about a live action Firestar. Yeah. I'm a little bit too old for that, but I sure could play Aunt May. I could play Aunt May real well. Miss Lion, so she could be my dog. So I definitely want to be considered for that if they do a live action. And if they do, some phase of one of the comic books in the X-Men, because this is why voice acting is so nice, because you can be as young as you want or as old as you want or whatever you want. You can be those things. So I could play whatever age, they want her to be at that time in that she's evolved to.
We're good friends with Lenore Zan, who voices Rogue on X-Men, and we did a panel with her in LA, and someone asked her who would they want her to cast as Rogue in the live actions for the MCU, and Lenore was like, "Sugar, with all the CGI, just make her CGI, and I'll provide the voice." And
what a great idea! A little AI, half reality.
But I think your interpretation of Firestar is the one that's lasted with fans and why the character has endured. And I'm curious for you, because we did have characters like Wonder Woman, around that time, but Firestar was very much a first of her kind, just a superhero out there on a kid's cartoon show. What was it like being sort of a trailblazer for that voice, for that representation?
I didn't know I was going to be.
Surprise.
And so again, I liken it kind of to Family Affair. After the first show was aired, and it was like number one and a big hit. And I said, oh, and people would come up to me and they said, can I have your autograph? I said, you want my autograph? And I said, well, I don't know. And then you say, well, I didn't know that it was going to be such a success. And I didn't know that that was going to be kind of a trailblazing kind of show, because it was the first show that had a single man raising a whole family.
Yeah.
It was one of the first shows in color. It was, and it has endured because of the classic, I think, kind of show, and also the themes they dealt with. You know, it was a dramedy. It wasn't so much a big comedy, but it was relatable. And then I hearken that to Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. So many of the storylines were totally relatable, and people can see it and put themselves into that exact same place. And they said, I wish I had that fire. I wish I could fly up into the sky. I wish if I had, there was an enemy, I could just melt it, or I could do something instead of, just having all this stuff come on me. And again, coming back to the original start of this show, I said, it's the fire within us, not to be overly philosophic, but we all have that inner strength. We all have that light, that if something is bothering us, we have the inner strength to deal with it. And I think that Firestar also can represent that. We have the fire to make our own way.
Oh gosh, that is so beautiful. I'm sorry. I'm so enchanted with everything you just said. And that's what I think makes the character so special, especially when we think of her in the comics. With everything that happened with Emma Frost, she still persevered. She had a fire within. And, in the comics, she also developed cancer, and that was a story for her, and she overcame it. And she's sort of right now, even though she's playing a double agent, within the story, people are against her because they think she's betrayed the X-Men, and yet she still perseveres. And just hearing you speak and sort of understanding the character right now in a larger context, I mean, that is sort of what makes her so special and so pronounced amongst fans, is that she perseveres in the face of a lot of obstacles.
And that's one of my main goals in life too. And this is not a great simile, but yeah. I got one of those nice little diffusers with oil. You put oil in them.
Oh, yes.
They have the little sticks, and you put the sticks in them. So I had a good friend, Laurie, who gave me this for my birthday a couple of weeks ago. And so I put out the bottle with the oil and next to the sticks. Well, I couldn't get the top out of the cork. I couldn't get the cork out of the oil. I couldn't get the cork out of the oil. So I just left it there. So a couple of days later, I came back and I saw my son. I said, oh, look, you got that cork out of the bottle and you set up the diffuser and it smells so good. And he says, no, Megan did that. Megan is my daughter-in-law. My son and my daughter-in-law live with us and have for 10 years. He never left home. They just keep coming in. He brings in chicks, and then but this is just one chick. And I said, how did she do it? And he says, perseverance. And it has been the watchword of our house and of my family. Perseverance. How are you going to do that? There was this little story about this fellow that had to write a whole term paper and to organize all the birds in the world. And his older sister came in and he says, what are you doing? And I'm supposed to write this. There's too many things to do. And she says, just do it bird by bird. And I said, oh, okay. So it's bird by bird and persevere. That's my philosophy of life. That's Firestar's philosophy. We'll get to that, Emma. We'll persevere. She's going to pay. Well, the thing is, she didn't know about butter rum. That she thought she put it on Firestar. That Firestar was to blame for her horse's death, not her.
What do you think an episode between Firestar, your Firestar, and Emma Frost would look like?
Oh, it'd be great. It would be great because I I don't take kindly to Emma, and I don't. And actually, if people do me wrong, that is one flaw. I only have one flaw in my life. But if people do me wrong, it's hard for me to forgive them. It really is. I love everybody and accept everybody at the very beginning, but if they mess me up and they mess around with me, I don't forgive them easily. So I have not forgiven Emma either. And that was a big thing that she did. So it would be quite a conflict.
So when you were going in and you were doing the episodes, was there ever a script or storyline that was presented to you that just never made it on air for Firestar? Was there ever like a plot that you had wish had made it?
No, so there's a lot of fodder.
Yeah.
That we
You're like, there's a whole series that could have happened.
Yeah. So let's write it.
I
Time to get down and write.
I mean, listen, give me 2 days. I will hammer out a couple scripts because we love Firestar so much here. But I'm also curious about when you're developing Firestar and you were talking to the producers, was there any direction that they gave you apart from, she's going to be, Firestar, she's going to have, heat, fire activated powers. She really was just your canvas to create.
She was.
Okay.
And the way that we did it, we all sat around the table and we looked, because they did the animation and the story, of course, before we're doing the lines. So we got to see what was happening to kind of match what was going on. But there was a lot of freedom to be, our own voices and our own takes on things. And as I said, I mean, Frank and I had been around for a while, and I think it was that naivete that Dan had, because this was like his first. So it's just, wow, I can't believe, and it's that to this day, I swear to God, I can't believe that I'm actually crawling up a wall,
Well,
and it's that just amazement of what is this?
that must have been so surreal for him. What advice did you give him when you guys started working on the series together? I mean, at this point, you're very experienced, and you're like, wow, this is my first role, and I'm Spider-Man. That's a huge role.
I let the director do that, and
Yeah.
and I am usually not want to tell another actor how to act.
That's fair.
And so I let him, and I would, and acting, as you know too, is a lot of acting reacting.
Yeah.
So you're going to react to the way a person says a particular thing or what they do. So but it was, as I say, he had just had this nice, ingenuous kind of feel to him. And I was young too, and I wasn't that young, but and I had been working for like years. So I just kind of, went a pace and followed what the director had in mind. And Stan Lee was there too. And he was formulating, because this was kind of his first time doing something like this with the animation, to making these characters.
What was your first impression when you saw her? Did you see her before you auditioned, when you got there, or was it after you got the job that you saw how she was going to look?
After.
After. Were you surprised that she was a redhead? Were you like, what's up?
Well, I was surprised she had such a great figure. I was loving that. And at that time, I did kind of have reddish hair.
Okay.
My hair has gone through several different.
I mean, mine too. Mine's
processes.
going through a blonde. Mine's going through a blonde phase right now.
Yeah, I'm in the blonde phase, and I was never that red, but for Family Affair was auburn.
That's true. You were auburn for that series. Okay, so you saw her and you were like, look at her. And what do you think was the most challenging thing about bringing her to life? Was there something about her that was a challenge, or was it just a very easy process?
Well, no, the most difficult thing was flying down to LA. I wish I had my superpowers then. I just fly down instead of getting on the plane, going down, recording, coming back up, because we didn't have Zoom and we didn't have studios then. And now, of course, when you're doing a voiceover, they'll give you a rendition of the character, and so you can kind of, for the audition, match something to it. But then and it was just in the 80s, but that's a long time ago in
Well,
some ways.
can I ask how many times a week did you have to commute to LA?
Because we didn't record like
Yeah.
today, so
Yeah.
oh, well, we'll do it all in one day. No. So
Yeah.
I was about 10 times.
Wow. Yeah. I asked because I'm an auctioneer and my husband and I, as I told you before, we hit record. We bought down in Miami. We still have our place in New York, but I have to be on a flight every week. And it kind of kills your voice being on those flights, jumping from, hotel room to hotel room. And it can be very jarring. But when we look at the series now, you're immaculate. I mean, your portrayal's immaculate. I never would have thought you were someone who was commuting all around, and it just seemed so effortless and powerful on
Oh,
screen.
thank you. It's not very far though. It's just
Yeah.
half hour.
Oh,
There,
okay.
it's 40 an hour to go
Yeah.
from San Francisco to LA. I was
Oh, okay.
landing
That's good.
right in Burbank, and it was very close.
Oh, mine is a
Yeah,
2.5 hour commute. I'm like, oh,
yeah, that's a lot longer, Paul.
6 a.m. flight. I'm getting vodka at the. I'm like,
Oh,
oh, so it's.
yes, a little something help along
Um,
the way.
so did you know about the X-Men when you went into the series, or did you kind of discover the X-Men as the series was unfolding?
Yes, afterwards, because
Yeah.
and I don't think the X-Men came in until after,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. So no, I didn't know about them. But you do, as I say, I've been doing this for a long time, doing all kinds of different kinds of jobs. So that's my job. Okay, now I'm going on to another job. Okay, now I'm going to record a book. Okay, now I'm going to go do a movie. Now, so all those things
Yeah.
you operate, then all your focus goes on that particular project that you're on. At least that's the way it was with me. But I love the way then that they started all the Comic Cons.
Yeah.
So that just keeps, and the autograph shows that I go to for Family Affair, and the Western shows I go to because I did a lot of Westerns. So, you do those types of conventions. And I love talking to the people because it's energizing to me, you
Well,
know?
you have such an affable, warm, radiating personality. I can definitely see that. And I can see people who would just want to sit down and talk to you. What kind of fans do you get most of? Is it Family Affair? Is it Spider-Man? Which fans do you see most often?
Well, it depends on what kind of con
Yeah.
I'm at, but and mostly it's half and half. I will get
Yeah.
half fans for Family Fair, get half fans for the Comic Cons, except for this last year that I've been going to the Comic Cons, and they are just loving Firestar. And
Yeah.
and I would say it's now more 60-40 for Firestar.
Yeah.
And Spider-Man and the other, voiceover things I've done than Family Affair. But
Yeah.
that's the way.
Well, again, Firestar is having such a huge push in the comics, and I'm drawing a blank here. So when you came onto the series and we knew she was created just for the series, were you told that she was going to eventually translate into the comic books, or
Mm-mm.
did that happen? So that happened afterwards. When did you find out that she would be living on in the comic books?
I think I didn't find that out until a Comic Con. And I said, oh, look at this. Firestar has four comic books.
Yeah,
And
yeah, her
then
first
I got,
series.
yeah. And then I really got schooled in comics and what they were, and that she had her own little mini series. And so I was collecting them, and fans brought them to me. And then of course I signed them. And then there's all kinds of different types of comics that she would appear in, that
Yeah.
and then there was Deadpool and this and that. So I love the comics.
If Ryan Reynolds called you up and was like, "Hey, come for Deadpool 3, let's have you be Firestar," would you totally get on a plane to, I'm forgetting where they're filming Deadpool 3.
Absolutely. Let's make that happen,
We're gonna
Paul. Yes. Look, I wear red and
You're like
yellow.
wearing red. I'm there. Is there a favorite Comic-Con you've been to? Is there one Comic-Con in particular that you love?
Um, I know my autograph show. I mean, I like the Mid-South Nostalgia Festival. That's one of my favorites.
Mm.
But for the Comic-Con, I don't like San Diego. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
So I liked Northeast Comic. I liked Philadelphia. The
Oh,
Philadelphia
yes.
Comic-Con, that was really good. The RetroCon
Oh,
in
RetroCon. Yes.
RetroCon was really cool. The people were just so nice, and so yeah. I mostly like every place I go. I'm going to do Pasadena Comic Con. I
I I know one of our co-hosts, Michelle Waffle Dettel, who couldn't make it today, but she DM'd me to be like, "I'm sorry I can't make it to the episode, but I'm going to be seeing her at Pasadena next month." She told me the dates, but I'm forgetting. We'll plug it when I do the intro. But I was like, "Yes, I wish I could be going to Pasadena, but sadly."
that's nice. That's January the 28th.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
So
at the
it's
end of this month. And then I'm doing one in May. And of course, I was asked to do two, and they were on very same weekend. And that's May 4th. May the 4th be with you.
yes.
And one is just for the X-Men mutants, and that's in New York. No, that's in Florida.
Yeah, that's
Where
MutantCon.
you are.
That's
That's
MutantCon. I'm
where you
part of
are.
it. I'm part of it.
The X-Men
Yeah,
one.
The MutantCon. Yeah, in Orlando.
And I was going to do that, and I forgot I was supposed to do this. What's it called? X RetroCon
Mhm.
in Idaho by
Oh,
Snake River, and he had asked me 2 years ago, and it fell when I had another thing to do, and so I promised him I'd do it the next year, which
mm.
is this year.
This year.
And
Oh,
they're on this they fell on the same date, and I'd said, oh well, yeah, I would like to do this. It'd be fun to come to Orlando and all of that, but
oh gosh, I'm so sorry we're gonna miss you. We're gonna have a wild time there, though. We have Lenore Rowe coming. We have Emma Dumont, who was the actress for Polaris on the Fox shows. We would have loved to have had you.
can you do it next year? I'll come
Yeah,
next.
let's.
Do it next year.
I'm gonna
Let's do it
text
next year.
Jeff. I'm gonna text
Yeah,
Jeff right now. He was probably the one who reached out to you to let him know that we spoke
yes.
because you would just jive so well. Because the energy of that con, Kathy, is that we just want people to come and celebrate the characters, and that's it, and just have conversations and have a good time. You know? Oh,
Let's do it. Let's do it next year. I'd love to.
okay. So before we move off of Spider-Man and his amazing friends, one final question. Firestar was shown dating both in the series, Spider-Man and Iceman. And of course, Iceman has now come out of the closet, but in the context of just your show, who would Firestar have chosen? Would she have chosen Spider-Man? Would she have chosen Iceman? Or would she have been like, F that, I'm my own person, I would do something else?
Well, I would have melted Iceman, so I had to go with Spider-Man.
Yes. I love that so much.
No
Oh,
choice.
okay. So I wanted to dive into some of your background with acting, and I know some of it because I followed you along for a couple of years, but for the folks at home who probably don't know, how did you get into voice acting? We know you started very early on as a child, sort of this prodigious thespian. How did that morph from doing acting, like television, and then getting into voice acting?
Well, I had done a lot of radio when I was a
Hmm.
child, and that was a big medium at that time. And as I say, that my first movie was The Ten Commandments. Then I did Night of the Hunter was
Mm.
actually my first, with Robert Mitchum and Shelley Winters and Lillian Gish, and I mean a great cast. And then I did a film noir, Monkey on My Back, and then I did guest stars on like all the TV shows that were going on at that time, and did stage. Then I did Family Affair for 5 years, and then I came back and I was doing guest appearances. And my agent, my commercial agent, Don Schwartz, at the time, he was a big commercial agent in Hollywood, and he was sending me out for live action, on camera commercials. And then he says, "Well, we have a voiceover audition for you." And I says, "What's that?" And I says, what's voiceover? What does that mean? He says, oh, well, you'll be fine. Just go and do the script. And I says, okay. So I went, and I'll never forget this. It was in Century City, I believe. And I went into the studio, and they gave me the script, and it was for tuna fish. And it was for, I forget what it was, what kind of tuna fish. Sunkissed. That's it.
Yes.
Going through the file. So they, all you say is I like tuna fish. I said, okay, this is easy. I like tuna fish. He says, okay. Now say it in a different way. What do you mean? Different way? I mean, I like tuna fish. No, say it in a different voice. Different voice? I like tuna fish. Thank you very much. We'll call you. You call us. What was that? So I immediately signed up for lessons and finding out what is voiceover. And then I was a speech major in college at UCLA. So I knew how to pronounce my words and how to sell my words, but I didn't know all the different kinds of people that live within you, that all you have to do, not all you have to do, but you can give them different voices. And there are techniques of making different voices and making the different voices and making different things along, a musical set that you have set up. You can make it gravelly, you can make it clear, you can make it not nasal. I've done like maybe 70 audiobooks, and in some of the fiction books that I do, there'll be like 70 or 80 different characters. Well, you have to have a voice for each one of them, because as you know, they don't say, well, Paul said that we're going to talk to Ryan Reynolds. And I say, oh, well, that's good. Kathy said. And then he says, well, maybe. And then there's no Paul said or Kathy said. So you have to stay with the same voice so people know that is that character. So you have to make up a lot of those different kinds of voices, but they have to be real. And, you just can't pretend, they're real.
Well, you are so exceptionally prodigious and talented with your voice acting. And I wanted to pull on the thread of audiobooks because I used to work at Hachette Audio a couple of years ago. And I know you won 2 Audis, and I used to be on the Audis planning committee. I used to do the social media for them. I was there when David Sedaris and John Waters were there as well. And I have to tell you, that is like the Oscars for folks at home who don't know. That is like the Oscars of audiobooks. And audiobooks are really hard to do for everything you just said. You have so many characters, you have to do different types of voices, and it's not easy.
No, I taught audiobook for maybe about 15 years. And because people think that they can just get a, piece of paper and for a book and they'll start reading it. I said, no, that isn't the way you do it. You have to, what's the setting? Who are you? Where are you? You have to tell the story. You're telling a story basically. And all these characters have to be real. And they can be formulated from people that if you want a quick one, or you write a little bio for the main characters. So there's a lot more to it than just reading, which, is boring.
we had some challenges with some authors who were not voice actors, who did not know how to do the art of audiobooks, who insisted on reading their own books. And even though they were nonfiction, so it's they think, why can't I just read it? And those audiobooks were just terrible. And again, it's not that the story isn't good, it's not that the writing isn't good, it's just that they haven't mastered the art of audiobook, and they think it's as easy as just reading what they wrote and people would be engaged. And no, it takes a professional to be able to capture someone in that medium, because audiobooks, much like a hardcover, like a paperback or an ebook, it's a different format of consuming the stories, and there is a certain niche audience for each.
Yes, I agree. And some of the authors, because I directed some, and I remember one author, and she really wanted to do her book. I says, oh, okay. And she unfortunately had Lyme disease.
Oh,
And so she didn't have a lot of energy. And she insisted that her little dog be with her. So she was reading the book and she was reading it very like this. So then we're going back and we had almost edited this whole thing. And then I hear, and I'm saying to the audio engineer, I said, what is that? He says, that's the dog. So she's talking like this, and the dog is going, how are we going to get that snore? The text. Well, thank God we found some sound soap, and we're able to erase that part and separate it from the actual voice part. But yes, there are the challenges, as you so politically and nicely put it.
oh,
I'm not quite as politic as you, but
I was in book publishing for 12 years, and I know some authors with their little dogs who have shown up places, and I wonder if we're maybe thinking of the same person, but we will save that for once we stop recording. But okay, so you're doing voice acting work, and you were on the Fonz and the Happy Days. How was that show like? How was it like going on that? We're big Happy Days fans here at Power of X, man. What was the experience like going into that recording booth?
well, it was great, and I think it was at Hanna-Barbera
Yeah.
is where we were shooting. So it was very big. So it wasn't into a little booth. It was more it was a big room, as I remember,
Yeah.
and all the actors just were wonderful. I think Ron Howard was kind of um, booming his in from back east because we
Mhm.
were in Hollywood. But there was a lot of joy and happiness between all the people that were recording. So that always makes, I think, a better product in the end.
And how is Henry Winkler?
He's great, and he's so sweet to these days. I
Mm.
saw him at the Hollywood show last year, and just the nicest. He has a book coming out.
Oh,
Uh,
does he?
yeah, and just very, very nice guy. But yeah, he has a new book coming.
So the Spider-Man series in the 90s, they asked you to return. What was that like? What was that? What was that call like? What was that entire experience like?
I'm always happy for a job.
I mean, same. When you live gig life, I'll take any job. But this is like a homecoming, right?
Yeah, so it was lots of fun, and I love to you get to know people, and then you don't see them for a while, and then you see them and it's like you saw them yesterday. That kind of feeling, which is always very nice to be around.
Were you disappointed when you were like, why aren't you asking me to be Firestar? And then the next question being, why isn't Firestar in the series?
Yes, and so I'm still going to play. I think this is the year for Firestar. This is the year we're going to. She's coming into her own.
She's
And
coming
I
in.
don't know what manifestation, whether I'll be, the AI of Firestar, or what, or the CG, or the live action Aunt May I would have to do. But I liked the way, what was her name that you talked about? He says, "Oh, sugar."
Oh, Lenore Zan. Yeah.
Yes.
Lenore. Oh my God. You and
Right, yeah.
Lenore. So since you can't make it to MutantCon this year, next year you meet Lenore Zan having a riot in Orlando.
Okay, that'll be
People will
great.
go crazy. Firestar and Rogue together.
Yeah.
One of my final questions for you is what was it like writing your memoir and sort of having this very incredible career and having the opportunity to sit down and reflect on it, especially knowing, you've done audiobook work, so you've been involved in the literary scene. What was that like to sit down and say, I'm going to write my story. This is a moment to tell it.
Well, it wasn't the moment. It's like, I like the gig life. You don't
Mhm.
know when one gig's coming or one gig. So, and one of those spaces, I've written now 5 books, and that was my second book.
Mhm.
And I said, well, I think I started writing it a while back, and then we had a fire, and so that went up in flames. Firestar, there's always some flame around her. And so then I started over again, and it was good. My family was very tolerant because I had pictures all over my office and in piles here and there and everywhere, trying to get organized. My eternal quest in life to be organized.
Same.
Uh, oh my God. And so it was all kind of, but it coalesced. And it was interesting because as I was writing it, a certain theme developed. So I had somewhat of an outline, but and you had mentioned, like, even in our interview, well, here, I want to go through this thread. My book became a piece of fabric. And
Yeah.
so there was each chapter became a part of the fabric of my life. And there was a crocheted one, and there was a lacy thread, there was a coarse thread, there was, all these different textures that coalesce to make the whole thing. And we're still knitting and crocheting on that fabric, but I had to end it where it was. But that doesn't end me. And would you like to know what I'm doing now?
Yes, I would love to know what you're doing now.
Well, I'm talking to you. And then next week I'm going to Palm Springs
I
and
love Palm Springs.
it's wonderful. I do a show called A Christmas Memory,
Yeah.
uh, uh, by Truman Capote. So I
Mhm.
did an appearance in Palm Springs with it and a couple museums. Anyway, so I'm going to
Love
Palm
Palm Springs
Springs
so
to
much.
do the golf tournament for a celebrity golf tournament for Fred Williamson. And then the next week, I'm going to Pasadena Comic Con. And then I'm going to Michigan, which is very cold, I
Oh
understand.
my gosh, are you going to be ice fishing?
No, I'm doing a Christmas movie, and it's very cold. Christmas at the Roanoke Ranch.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
play the owner of this. It's such the theme has been done millions of times. But anyway, the widow's losing the ranch and's got to save the ranch. But
I am here for it. Please. When is it coming out next year
it'll
or
be
this year?
for
This year.
this year for
Yeah.
Christmas. Yeah.
I tell me we will do a live watch on Power of X-Men. I love
That would be
watching
great.
Christmas movies
Uh,
so much. I watched the Lindsay Lohan Christmas movie on Netflix. I watch Autumn Reeser's Christmas movies. Let's do it. We will be so excited.
Yeah, so this is Christmas at the Roanoke Ranch, and I'll ride a horse. And we have therapy horses and rescue horses. That's my ranch. It's a
Yeah.
501(c)(3) um, organization that we have. So, and then there's my nephew who is very handsome that meets the reporter, and there's the Rocom in it. So it's you're kind of your typical Christmas movie, but it's in Michigan and it's cold, so I'm doing that. And then I'm going to go to Australia and do a movie called Pollyanna's Wish. And it was based on the original Pollyanna book that when not Lindsay Lohan, I think Haley Mills
Okay.
did Pollyanna. And so this is a different, and that was Disney. I think Disney did Pollyanna.
Yeah.
This is, though, based on this story, and it's also shot in Australia. And we don't have a Pollyanna yet, and I'm a producer on that as well as being Mrs. Snow, going from real snow to Mrs. Snow in Australia. And then I'm going to do a movie in good what's it called? Good Times at Blue Jay Saloon in
Okay.
Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh my
And
gosh. I
and
love
Dolly
Nashville too.
Parton is like the executive producer, and it's about these two girls that have a band, and I play Nana, and it's really a good movie. I like the movie a lot. So there's lots of stuff going on, and we have this pilot for TV dinners that may be shot in New York. So if you still in New York, or are you
Yeah.
primarily in Orlando?
No, so we're going back to New York. We're gonna close up the house here. We finish our renovations, and then we're gonna be back in New York on Thursday. And we'll be in Thursday because my season now kicks off this Saturday. So I'll be all over the place until June. And then so we'll probably return here in June.
And you've got all your renovations are all done now?
Almost. Well, listen.
Well,
So,
a house is never finished. Look at the house that's
right.
built,
Same
you
with
know.
the memoir. By the way, I wanted to just pull on the thread one more time what you said about your memoir, how you had to finish it because I've been working on my memoir. It's more of a not collection of nonfiction essays, but my friend just published a book, and we were talking about how when you take a couple years to write something and you go back to revise or you reapproach your material, you have a different perspective on that material and it changes so much. So at a certain point, you just have to be done with it. And I
It's like
thought,
taking a picture. You
Yeah.
know, okay, no, I just want one more little stroke, and he said,
Okay.
"Oh my God!"
You're done.
Then you ruined the whole thing. Yeah, you just have to say, "Okay, I did it. I'm proud of it. I like it. Let's get it out there." Because you
Yeah,
can always do a sequel. You can always do,
I agree
another.
with you. And but that's something that I see a lot of people when they're writing nonfiction or they're writing essays, they don't understand where you just have to stop and you're done right now because there's always going to be your feelings for something like that. And I just thought that was really great advice my friend gave me, and it's echoed with you right now. And it's a testament to your talent.
Oh, well, thank you.
Your literary
My
talent among your
literary
other.
acumen.
Firestar is going to be a writer in the comics now, hopefully.
Yes. Well, yeah, maybe that's it. The spiritual being wants us to get together and write those scripts for Firestar. There we go. And we'll get them out there.
Kathy, where can fans connect with you?
They can go to my Facebook, which is Kathy Garver's fan page, and
Mhm.
go to that one because the other one is all, filled up. And they can go to my kathygarver.com,
Yeah.
KATHYGARVER.com. And then my newsletters are there. And so I have a newsletter each month. They can connect to me there. They can sign up for the subscription. I've got all my toys there and my books on my and on my website, and my pictures and my candles and my room sprays.
I follow you on Instagram and I love seeing your posts. You have so much light. You always are out and about and you have such a wonderful presence. And it's such a pleasure to see on my feed. And you're going to be all over the place. Nashville to Australia to Michigan. You're going to be everywhere. So I can't wait to see those adventures.
Well, thank you. And I'd love to see you in New York. That would be really fun. And I would like to see you at the Mutant one in Orlando next year.
Kathy, I mean, you have this insane schedule. We know you have a lot of upcoming projects, but do you have any upcoming movies that everyone should be aware of?
Yes, I have a new movie coming out, and it's called The Empty Church. And we filmed that in Illinois, and that will be out in a couple months. And it's a drama, and it's very interesting. It's made by a good friend of mine, John Norton, who lost his son to suicide, and he could not understand. And so it's a movie looking for the answers to the questions about why would somebody do this. So that's a drama that will be out this year. And also My Yellowbird, it's a movie that I did that's now available on Amazon Prime. And it's a fun movie, and maybe that movie might be made into a series. But those are two things that one you can look for, and one is there. And there is another one called Old Man Jackson, which is another movie that I did. Yellowbird and Houston and Old Man Jackson came out within 2 weeks of each other, even though it took them longer to finally get out there. But Old Man Jackson will be out next month, and that will also be on Prime. And so people can watch those. I'd love to get their reactions, and I'd like everyone to visit my website.
Amelia, you heard it here. It's on Amazon Prime. Winter is here. Order some pizza. Watch our icon Firestar and send her DMs, emails, slide into her Facebook message boards, and make sure to let her know how much you're enjoying these films.